Welcome back to my channel. We're doing it this week again based on my last video of Trump. We're gonna do it the same way, right? I've yet to edit a couple of videos that I've made, and recently I just haven't got the time and the chance to set up my entire space to be able to do the classic videos that I'm doing. And every time I get to just have ideas, I just decided to share them this way because they're just fresh. So it's just better for me to share it, and then after a while I'm gonna go back and really probably gonna go even deeper into the things that I'm talking, like the last videos that I talked about sharing the Trump election and the fact that I was just a secret supporter coming out of the closet. But today we still gonna talk about the Trump election. We still gonna talk about the impact of those elections, because I think it's been just a lot bigger than what people had in mind. And for me, it was a big transformation for me to even be able to say it out loud that I actually would have voted for Trump if I were to be American. I live in Canada, so I didn't get to vote, but I've been a Trump supporter for a while and for many reasons. I shared a couple on my last video, and today I'm just gonna go deeper into a couple of things that I think could be important for anyone here that would agree or disagree, right? I think the main line for me was the ideology. I kind of talked a bit about it, but even getting deeper to it was one of the things that really made me go towards more the right than the left, where I felt like I've always been a little bit more neutral. I didn't talk much about politics, to be honest. With my parents, we lived in Cameroon, so there was not much of the things to talk about there when it came to just the politics in general. So I saw my parents work to get wherever they had to go. They just worked, always worked. And coming here and just starting to feel more the impact of the United States, even if I live in Canada, just started to even question my own belief, my own values. Always thought about the family. I always thought about just the role of a man and the role of a woman. So I always thought myself being a much more traditional, and coming back to just being even more stronger into my Catholic beliefs, being Christian, just made it so much more obvious for me that I was definitely more traditional, aka more conservative than anything else. So there was a lot of that actually playing in my mind, even coming to the fact to be a Trump supporter. So today, sharing more of that ideology, what it is that for me I saw more in Trump that I saw in Kamala, let's say, for the future of the United States, for the future of the world, because it's impacting every part of the world, just not the same way. Like I said, on the African side, there's nothing direct, as in for now, which is good. But at the same time, everybody is looking up at what Trump is going to do, because it's going to affect after. And the massive and biggest impact for me was the ideology of the progressive party, where I was less and less and less in agreement with them. We can start with the kids and just talking about transitioning kids, where I'm really very much against it. That's nothing for me to even be able to kind of think about it even a bit. Like I said, very traditional. But there was another thing about just a couple of policies that had been set up by the Progressive Party, and especially the DEI, which is a diversity, equity, inclusion, that started to be a little bit more present in a lot of things that people were doing through the companies, and we even feel that here. And the fact that I'm talking about it today is definitely based on, let's say, a most recent anecdote that I've been through, or just a story that I wanted to share. Before even getting to the story, if I have to talk about my background, my cultural background, living in Africa, I lived in Cameroon, my home country, up until I was, let's say, around 16, 17 that I moved here. Before that, I was literally traveling throughout Europe, big chunk part of my life, right? But never had I thought that having a different belief or having different values, culture, religions in general would be a struggle or would be a problematic thing, right? I lived in a country where its majority is Christian and mostly Catholics, because we got to kind of have that impact and that transfer of religion from France and European countries. The history goes way back, because Christianity was already in Africa way before the most recent colonization and colonizers came. But again, that's just another story for another day. But at the end of the day, most of the people living in Cameroon being French and then English, we do have the Catholic and the Catholic faith as being the majority and the major religion. Then after that, you have Protestant, but not as much, or at least few compared to the Catholic people. And then you have Muslim in the north of Cameroon. So I kind of grew up where I saw a lot of diversity of religions, if I could see it like that. And I would get in neighborhoods in my city where there was a lot of Muslim, right? And I could talk about God and I would not feel that offense that I get here from people whenever I would even get onto the subject. And something that I really love and that really for me would be the ideal part of just people being there the way they are, that would be good to change, is a directness of what I can see through a lot of African people. I would really say that even in my family, if there was something that was just not making sense, my mom or my dad would tell me that right away. It was nothing about just playing the nice person, right? If something was just not working, I would get the part that it was not working, and then we will work into what we can do to change it. So there was that freedom of speech, freedom of discussion, freedom of even beliefs, because like I said, going around, walking around, having different friends from different backgrounds, European friends, African friends, there was a lot into just feeling just the diversity of it without actually mentioning it. That's what I would say. Coming here from the get-go, I felt the tension when we would talk about God, right? The Christian God. And I think at the beginning, I didn't necessarily feel it. I didn't feel it that much. For me, it was just something that maybe they were just not used to talk about, let's say, faith, belief, religion, even politics in general, as freely as I grew up to see people do that, right, to that extent. And then I started to learn more about the history of Canada, because it's just that big, well, I wouldn't say big difference, but I would say a difference between the English people in Canada and then the French people in Canada. Quebec is that province where you've got the French people, and this is where I'm currently living. So there's a big history here with religion, especially the Christianity, at some point being so much strict to the point where when laws changed, when there was that separation between the state and between the religious belief, I think people were just feeling much more freer to be able to not even get associated to Christianity, to be more free that way, because there was just way too much of a restriction. Again, here I'm really summing it up. I think there's just more details, but the idea was that people felt a lot more of the freedom when there was that separation, and the religious belief were not necessarily the priority, right? And the point was to actually make everything more diverse, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you've got abuse from the church as well, because we got to talk about it. There's been the abuse. Doesn't make the church being evil though, but there's been people being really much more abusive towards just taking that role of authority, let's see, especially here. So you kind of see that story, feel it, and when you live here, you feel the tension with the Christianity and just the faith and then the beliefs in general, which at some point makes you lose that big part of your identity, a big chunk of your identity. And I think that's why in Quebec especially, you've got a lot of people being very much frustrated about just having new people coming in, or just new, I would say, much more of that diversity and much more of those religious beliefs. They're becoming a big source of tension, because when you get to the history of a lot of people here, they did not necessarily have a good relationship with Christianity altogether. So you can hear a lot of story. My old boss was somebody that had a kid this year, had a kid a couple of months ago, and the first thing that he would say would be to never trust the church, never ever trust Christianity, right? Because the idea and the picture he had in his mind was just the abuse part, right, of all the story we know from the Catholic Church, and not necessarily the beauty of it. The beauty that for me is just the best part, and that's why I'm so proud of being Catholic and just being able to have that priority first in my life right now, right? That's for the background. So when we came to that, let's say, explanation and just relationship with Christianity here, you kind of feel the tension of just speaking about God, right? It's not even about just speaking about God. It's just a problem from the moment you decide to speak about God. And that's something that I felt, that's something I was okay with, because for me, everybody has that journey. But again, being and putting my priority into my faith, into that, those values, all connected to my faith at the end of the day, kind of made me question a lot more things that I would say, generally speaking, would be accepted, would be okay, which is a diversity, equity, and inclusion. And with the last couple of years, we've had a lot more of it in a lot of companies here in United States, in a lot of Western countries in general, right? Where you kind of saw that wokeness vibe, wokeness energy, where everything was about the tolerance and playing nice and really being able to accept a lot of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, and all of that side honestly is just beautiful, because I think it's good to be tolerant. I think it's good to be nice towards others. I think it's good to understand where people are coming from, to be able to find that middle ground. I definitely agree on that part. Where it becomes more toxic is that the thing that is here to help everybody to be more united becomes the tool to divide and just delete a good chunk of a part of the culture, and people having those beliefs or just those truths and putting anything else as a priority. There's nobody that can be neutral and completely neutral. I don't even believe in that. I don't believe in that at all. What I see though is that for people to be able to feel that that union and being able to find that middle ground is to be able to let the truth triumph. To let the truth triumph, you need to let people speak. You need to go with the freedom of speech. By putting and setting up the diversity, equity, inclusion policies, you reduce some people beliefs to put a lot more people beliefs at the top of the list. You're not fixing the problem, you masking the problem. And I saw a lot of that into a lot of things throughout the last couple of years, because at some point the censorship became massive on social media, massive. And I think where it really hit a point for me where I was like, enough is enough, was definitely the trans people, right? Where we would talk about people and say we would disagree with the lifestyle, and then other people would get a lot more censored because we would just say what is logic, what makes sense, where things need to be probably much more see in a deeper way, where the solution offered is definitely not the solution that helps people. It's more toxic than anything else. But when you try to debate those things, you have a lot more restriction into being able to just express and say the things and to say the truth, right? And we could clearly see the bias on social media. I could see that bias on social media miles away. And that's why there were a lot of things that I couldn't even trust. Because when you're trying to tell me that I have to be tolerant to the point of erasing the person that I'm becoming, which is to be much more into the Christianity and really put that belief first, you don't respect me, but you're respecting a lot more other people rather than me. And having a middle ground is being able to accept everybody. And a story that I have to share in where I'm working, without getting into the details, is that we've got a lot of discussion around Christmas celebration. And because of the equity, diversity, inclusion, the policy itself, that for me I call toxic. It's just toxic for me. It was at a point where you couldn't even say the word Christmas. That would be offensive for a lot of people working within the company. But at the same time, because you can think about it and be like, okay, that I guess would make sense if it's just about having that religious neutrality in a way. But the issue lies right there, because you can have a lot of other people from different cultural backgrounds, and in my company we have a diversity of people, so diversity of faith, diversity of belief. But you can't tell somebody celebrating Christmas, which at the end of the day is a birth of Jesus Christ, especially for Christian Catholic people, and being able to just come and tell me that I shouldn't even say the name Christmas, and have other people for different cultural belief come with their own holidays and all celebration and cultural celebration, and everybody would be excited about it. Everybody would actually wish that to the person. And I could even get a lot of example other than the cultural background. Happy Halloween, for example. You can say that. But again, I don't celebrate Halloween. I was not celebrating Halloween when I was living in Cameroon. Again, here, I would see a lot of people celebrating Halloween, saying Happy Halloween to everybody. I wouldn't mind, because even if I don't celebrate it, or I decide to just not celebrate it anymore, just because I'm just getting to be much more into the meaning of a lot of things that we see and why we do those things, and that I decide to not celebrate it anymore, that's something personal. So you telling me Happy Halloween just doesn't necessarily impact me so negatively, because at the end of the day, that's your own journey. And at the moment, from the moment you have any question about it, or you start questioning the holiday itself, or you never necessarily celebrate it and you're just not interested in celebrating it, and you want to learn more about the reason why I don't want to celebrate it, I would tell you, I would share it with you, because I don't mind. But at the same time, telling me Happy Halloween doesn't necessarily do anything bad to me. You know what I mean? Same goes with, let's say, the cultural holidays here in Quebec, where it's more a Quebecois type of holiday, more than me necessarily feeling included directly, because I didn't grow up here. So there's a lot of things that don't necessarily impact me that way. Even if you wish that to me, I'm like, okay, because I live here, I'm a part of the community, I'm a part of the province, I'm a part of the country as well. I don't mind, because at the end of the day, again here, it doesn't kill me to hear the happy insert something. Because if I don't celebrate it, okay, on to the next. If that makes you feel good to say, because you feel, let's say, a special pleasure into telling me that because you love it for any reason, I would be happy for you, because I don't mind. This is where lies one of those reasons why seeing what I saw into the Democratic Party, Liberal Party, Progressive Party, however you want to call it, just made me question so much of what we call the diversity here, right? And I never necessarily was for the diversity to start off, the diversity including inclusion policy. Let's just be clear here. Why? Because when we are having just the nature of a human being so broken, you can't try to fix something that let's just say you ended up creating just because of your brokenness. When you start relying on yourself, your own knowledge of doing things, fixing things, without relying on the divine grace, for example, you just end up creating more of the problematic situations. And the diversity, equity, inclusion, to be honest, didn't do a lot of things. A lot of people out there could say, oh, I've seen differences. There was a couple of things, but how much compared to the impact of it being negative? And that's the question to ask here. And to me, when you're trying to resolve that because you think you know better and you're sure you know better, that's where I always want to say, who are you, right? Who are you? When you start to embrace the fact that, yes, you're not perfect, there's something broken, and yes, we can work on that, but really always relying on the truth and relying on something that is beyond us. Because at the end of the day, we just don't even have that strength. Because if we had that strength to begin with, there would be no slavery, no colonization, no wars in general. Because slavery is not the beginning of our story as human beings, right? It's not. But if we go way back than that, there were already a lot of issues. Christianity didn't create those issues. They were already here. The contrary, Christianity did a lot of things contrary to what people seem to think, seem to believe, and seem to see online, or just a couple of stories that were more recent, or anything like that, right? So when you start to just acknowledge that you know the Lord first, that there's something beyond you too, you can't do anything by yourself thinking that you're the only one to be able to fix it. And that's why we are just creating more problems than anything else. We're getting to the point where we are so intellectual that we are dumb. That common sense just don't exist no more. And people are wondering why a lot of people, or just majority of people, especially in the United States, voted for Trump. Because at the end of the day, what people just seem to fail to see is that common sense was actually prevailing, because whatever we were already seeing was a dystopian culture, dystopian society, and a society that, to be honest, is scary for the rest of the world, right? I heard a lot of stories, especially in African countries, where I would see that impact. Let's say the Obamas, let's say celebrities or people that were very known, that would get into any African country, trying to reason them into accepting the LGBTQ lifestyle, that it was actually an offense for us as Africans to refuse that, to not acknowledge that. And that was something that I heard, and I was so insulted, because it was just like all the modern part of the world was getting reduced to a lot of things that just didn't make sense no more. And what a lot of people don't see from those elections is that it's not Trump that we voted for, it's an ideology that we were voting for. I'm looking to have a family. I'm looking to marry the person that I love, and I'm looking to have just a balance, to believe in the family, to believe in the role of a man, to believe in the role of a woman. How can I trust a society that can't even make a difference no more? How can I trust a society that can't even define what is a woman, right? Where are we going? And of course, a lot of people would say that's just the extremist part, but the extremist part is making the much of the noise out there. Those are the people, or just the group of people that would impact my home country, Cameroon, the rest of African countries, Asia, which is still a little bit more, let's say a lot more conservative than everything that you are seeing into the Western countries, a lot of them. So when we get to talk and see that way, there's just no reason for somebody with a common sense, most likely, to be voting for a Democratic Party or Liberal Party, because things have gone too far. And people, they are not stupid, right? So when you start relying on your own knowledge and smartness, I would say, this is where we are, right? We having a lot of degrees and a lot of, let's say, research into understanding that, oh, actually, you can change whoever you are. You can change your sex. You can change your, like, you can change all of that. It's up to you. You, your God. You, your own God. Even kids, they know better than themselves. So we should let them change whoever they are. But they are kids, right? You have a lot of people, and I know, talking from the African sphere, because I can't talk for everyone here. I'm talking for African people and African countries that I know the most. A lot of African are actually making the decision to go back to Africa, even if it's not the best comfortable lifestyle, I would say. A lot of them are making the decision to go back because it's still conservative. You know, they still think that makes sense, right? And again, going back to what I used to believe and how I grew up, there was already a diversity. People just wouldn't mention it because it didn't matter. Because we would see human beings beyond a woman, a man, a gay man, right? A Muslim, Catholic, Buddhist, right? That's what I saw the most growing up. And that was in a developing country. Coming here and seeing even more tension, the more we would talk about those topics, about the LGBTQ, that kind of lifestyle, the religion, God, I would say a lot more tension. The more we would set up in place any policy to help people be more tolerant, I would say a lot of people and a lot more people either getting frustrated or looking to have something even more after feeling like they didn't have enough. Because at the end of the day, we want to be free, we want to be able to be whoever we want to be. And when we get there, it's not enough, right? The diversity inclusion just creates more victimhood because everybody is a victim. Everybody feels like a victim. That's the ideology for me that I see into the progressive party. And maybe in traditional, aka conservative, I could see more of myself into the conservative people here. Black, white, red, yellow, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, the values, they are prevailing more than any skin color. There's a lot more of those values that I see in white Christian people that I would see with black people here. So at the end of the day, the values are definitely the best. And definitely, for me, the priority before any skin, color, genre, being a woman, being a man. So again here, me supporting Trump has nothing to do with the fact that Kamala was a woman. I really don't care. I couldn't care less. It would be anyone. I couldn't care less. Because we are talking about ideologies here. And when you are looking to raise your kids in a balanced society, in a sane society, in a healthy society, that has nothing to do with the money and the power first. That should have everything to do with the education that you give to your children, right? I would never want to see my kids, any kids that I would have here, even question a bit of who they are because they feel like they're a woman into a man body and the other way around. I would never want that. And I know that never comes from them directly, most of the time, but comes from whatever the society is going to try to put in the brain. So if you are following whatever the society dictates and you don't necessarily question that, at some point you're becoming the sheep. You are way too smart for your own sake. And if it's you being smart that way, I don't want to be smart at all. Let me stay dumb. If for me, being conservative and really disagree with most of it makes me be dumb and not necessarily intellectual because there's million researches about it, that confirm that yes, there's an issue, let me stay dumb. I'm sorry. I would stay dumb. I would I take it as a badge of honor if it's to protect the future generation and putting your faith and putting God in the center of all of it, right? Because we can be diverse. We could be coming from different backgrounds. Doesn't mean that you have to say yes to everything. And I think the wake-up call for me, wanting to talk about it and sharing it today, was definitely the situation that I got through where I'm working, right? Where I was like, okay, that's becoming a huge issue. Because if I can say the word Christmas, if I can even talk about Christmas, what are we here for? You literally taking vacation during December because it was already a celebration at that point. Not a celebration that the society created, a celebration that was had that origin being Christian. But you're rejecting the God part of it, rejecting Jesus part of it, you're celebrating it, you're all excited about buying the gift, but you rejecting the whole meaning about it. But at the same time, you're taking advantage of it because you're having days off. So everybody is gonna be excited about having days off. Of course, I take it any day, anytime. But you can't make me be okay with that when I see any other culture, any other community celebrating with no sense of shame. That's what I feel. It's that sense of shame, always having the sense of shame, where when you want to talk about the God, you're just feeling so ashamed. And when I say God, the Christian God, because it's okay to talk about the universe. It's okay to talk about the Creator. When you get back to the Jesus God, the Christian God, that is an issue. That is always an issue. And I see it more and more. And that's why it was definitely something that I was feeling. I was like, I have to share it. And again, here I don't have all my setup, but honestly, I really didn't care about having a script about it. I think I just wanted to let it out. And at some point, I'm definitely going to be back to my usual space and talking with the classic videos and stuff. But it was still fresh in my mind. And that was the point for me to share it today. So let me know what are your thoughts about it. I feel like I was blabbing more than actually sharing something. Maybe not. But I'm working on having a book club by beginning of 2025 where I'm looking for women, especially women, really sharing that faith or just going back to the faith or just being new to the faith, especially the Catholic faith, where we're really gonna dive deep into just being a woman, the womanhood, the feminine part of it, but the Christian way, right? And that has nothing to do with just being just a servant or just a handmaid tales. That has nothing to do. It's something beautiful. It's something so gracious. And I always go back to Mary for it and always go back to the yes she gave when she got aware that she was going to be the mother of God. And she said yes, with no question asked, with no thing where to understand the how, all the steps, how to, nothing made sense. She just had the yes and just one question, and that was pretty much it, right? And she never regretted it. And that's why for me, she's my mother, and she's the person that is getting to most of that femininity, right? In always for women to be where they want to be. So that's just one topic, because there's gonna be more topics into the book club, but it's really important for me, especially for us women, especially nowadays, to really go back and understand the beauty of just being a woman and being just feminine that way. And it starts from the inside, right? It starts from just understanding what is a woman, right? And I think we kind of lost a bit of a sense of a meaning of just being a woman. And I think a lot of women, just more conservative women, could feel ashamed, especially being Black. And that's why I feel like there's most of that into our own community. It could be the African American community, the African community, and any other Caribbean community as well. But we still have those differences. But I do believe that something that would make us united, even if you are not Black, it's definitely the womanhood and the beauty about it. So that was me sharing a bit of it, and just me sharing a bit of my thoughts recently. And I don't know when I'm still editing videos, right? But they're gonna be out. But if they are not, I'm just coming here and just share anything that I have in my head, and just trying to be as unscripted as I could possibly be, because it's just a way of just kind of being myself and coming back to it, because it's been a while since I've been behind the camera. So I definitely feel that thing where I'm like new to it in a way, but we are going back. So I hope you had fun. I hope it made you question, or at least think, right? At least open the mind a bit here, and just question a couple of things. And even if you disagree, let me know. If you do agree, let me know too. So I will see you, and as I say all the time, smile, because it's free and contagious in a good way. Bye.